literally read it so many times. I'm reading it backwards now.
I think this is a good note for everybody out there.
He says that I don't pull well on TikTok, so
He doesn't.
It's
It's a fact. It just doesn't pull well. It's called social media for a reason, and it's not selfish media.
I just gotta clear something up. You weren't the 12th man on the field.
Right?
There is no easy way to get anything ever.
Woo! This is Mornings with Matt, the Deering Acting Studio podcast, where we discuss the connection between life and acting.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Deering, take the floor.
Alrighty. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mornings with Matt on the Deering Acting Studio podcast. I am Matt Deering here with Joey Sweeney and Brian Sweeney, and we got a great show today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. You know it's true. We can all feel it. A war has begun. We're going to talk about the war today. We're going to dive right into it. But before we get there, we're going to start off with the Bible here, Bri guys. So if you would do me the honors.
Yes, sir.
Wait a second here. We get a little Bible drum roll. What do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, obviously.
And what is our verse?
Ephesians 6:11 through 12.
I believe it's 10 through 12.
10 through 12? You're right. 10 through 12.
10 through
Let's
12.
back it up.
Let's
Here we
back
go.
it up. Let's
All right,
try
drum
it.
roll, please.
Yeah.
Rewind.
Ephesians 6:10 through 12.
Yeah, very good. All
I
right.
just want to read it like that.
All right, here we go. Let's listen to what the Lord has to say about war.
A final word. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil. For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly place.
Well done. Well done. So I feel like that was a very safe read of the Bible. I want you to go again.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually acting coach you on the Bible. This is hilarious.
I love it.
But go again. I honestly, now I wanted you to be your voice, because you did like, I'm going to do a very...
Yeah.
And the idea was, it was great. Actually, it's important because we heard every word, and that's really important. But let me hear it now with a more casual tone. Let me just hear your voice, because I want to really soak this in.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of juice in here. Go ahead. Give it to us one more time.
Yeah. A final word. Be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on all of God's armor so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil.
Okay, let's pause for a second. Put on God's armor. Are you kidding me? That's some good stuff right there. Like that's good writing.
Absolutely.
Put on God's armor. I think like when we think about armor, Joey, what do you like? What's your visual when we're like, I'm thinking of armor?
For me, it's like King Arthur.
King Arthur.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a
Big
knight.
time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or it's like Mandalorian.
Yeah. Oh, that's the
Yeah.
strongest kind of armor.
Almost.
Almost.
Second strong.
Second
South
strong.
Scar.
But you know, if he represents good, if he represents God, then that's yes, it is the strong, right? So that's the idea, and we're gonna actually talk a little bit about Star Wars today. But that idea of God's armor, you put it on, and if you make the choice to do that, you're impenetrable. It's like it's incredible, but it's very difficult to remember to do that. So, if we put on God's armor, then what does it say right after you just read it?
For we are not fighting against flesh.
No, before that.
Oh, right before that.
Like right after the armor part.
Armor of God, so that you will be able to stand firm against all strategies of the devil.
All strategies of the devil. Mm-hmm. Again, this is like Bible.
That one sticks.
Like this Bible's good stuff. You guys really should try reading this thing. It's really, really pretty good. So the strategies of the devil. Think about this. Thank you, Joey. Joey's like, he's already corrected me 3 times over here. He's the man. So he's like, yeah, by the way, you got the board, man. Do it right. Okay. So the strategies of the devil. I think strategy. Like I think of a chess game.
Yeah.
You think of that?
Yeah.
Or like playing Risk. Or,
Oh, I love Risk.
Board games, for sure.
Or Settlers of Catan. Mm-hmm. Let's go Settlers. That's an interesting one. Because in Settlers, you're thinking to yourself, you got to get to win, you got to get to 9 or 10 or something like that, right? Like there's a number you got to get to. So we're all doing the same thing. We're all going, well, we could get to 10 this way, or we could get to 10 this way. And we're looking at each other and going, I wonder if they're going for longest road, but I wonder if they've got another strategy underneath here, right? And so to think that the devil's going to come at you from one angle is incorrect. Mm-hmm. The devil's going to come at you from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, one thing doesn't work, he's going to try and find something else.
And the devil is strategizing how to get to you. So if you overcome a certain moment, a certain thing or whatever, the devil's like, he's not giving up. It's just going to try a different strategy. So the important thing here is God's armor is going to protect us against all the strategies of the devil. Wow.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Keep going.
For we are not fighting against flesh and blood enemies, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world.
Good. So the unseen world. This is the time that we are in. And when I say war, we are in a war. It's a spiritual battle right now. It's been happening for a long time, but people are waking up to it. And they're realizing that this is not a flesh and bone thing. This is not a Democrat Republican thing. This is not a right and a left thing. This is a spiritual thing that's happening. It's underneath the surface. And so we'll get to some of this later. And trust me, it doesn't help us to get political. So we're not going to. There's no point in doing that. But we can speak truth and we can speak light. And that is going to help the world. And so that's something that we will talk about. And we're okay with talking about that thing. And so we're going to dive into that. But here's this idea is what they're saying is it's the unseen. Mm-hmm. It's the invisible enemy. Mm-hmm. The invisible enemy is fear.
Yeah.
Fear. You can't see it. It doesn't exist. It's invisible, right? And what God's saying here through Paul is this idea of, you're being attacked, you're being strategized against, but with these evil rulers and these evil, like unseen, out of this world powers coming after you. And we're going to talk about this. The war we're talking about, it's psychological battle here. This is going in our own minds.
Yeah, there are plots on the other side, on the enemy side, going on around you. Like I imagine, somebody who has like a mystery board, and they're like trying to figure everything out, and they're just planning, and it's just right there in front of you. You have no idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
That's just the pain that can come from that. It's crazy.
And we talked about your fear a little bit yesterday, and if you think about this, when you surprised me and walked into the studio, I didn't know you were gonna be here already. I knew it was that day, but I didn't know you were gonna be there. Mm-hmm. My energy flipped immediately, right?
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden we're like, we were already gonna do the show on Monday, but it was like a new vibe, a new energy. It was a new passion, right? Mm-hmm. So just think about, right? There's this thing where there's this strategy to try to take you away, to try to put you back in the hospital, try to put you back into shackles, try to put you back into pride or whatever the thing is, to try to hold you down, because when you're here, we operate at a whole nother level.
Absolutely.
So we can't let those strategies come up against us.
Can't let them win.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dang, dogs. Good stuff. Keep going.
Real good stuff.
Real good stuff right there. That's real good.
But against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world, and against evil spirits in the heavenly places. So just again, more darkness trying to sneak its way in.
Darkness. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about war today. The psychological battle that's going on in all of our heads. And here's the truth. Right now, this war, and this is a world war that we are in. Do not kid yourself and think that it's not the case. It is. This is psychological, informational, spiritual warfare. It's happening. And it's loud, and right now it feels uneasy. And I want to just help everybody and ourselves realize that yes, it's real. Yes, it's scary. But we've been through this before. And we're always going through it. I believe that this war, this battle, this psychological thing that we're going to talk about today has always existed. It's always been in the past. It is now in the present, and it will always be in the future. And knowing that, understanding that, will make this time easier. So when we get to our third segment, we're going to talk about that, how we can deal with it.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to the whole idea of history is bound to repeat itself. It will repeat itself. Like, that's one of the things that's taught in school, said a billion times, but this is literally just evidence of that thing. Like, whenever something happens, it's bound to happen again, whether it be 10 years, 100 years down the road, with a slightly different strategy, but the same enemy is attacking, right?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you guys, if you like battles and you're just into, like ching ching, all kind of fun stuff, read Ephesians. Open up the Bible, read some Ephesians. It's good stuff. And just to recap that really quick, the idea is you put on God's armor. God's armor can protect you against every strategy the devil can come at you with. God is going to be stronger, but you got to remember to put on your armor. And don't leave yourself weak. Don't leave yourself with a soft spot. So today, what we're going to talk about, we're going to go down a couple things here. We're going to go on a commercial break here in 2 seconds. But I'll kind of go through what our show is going to be, the different segments. We'll go on a commercial break, and then we'll be right back. So first segment here coming up is going to be, what are the signs that we have a great war upon us? How do we know that we're in war? And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about all the signs that are there, and we'll kind of wrap back and forth, guys. Then we're going to come back after our second commercial break, and we're going to talk about hope. Is hope lost? I don't know. Maybe we should check in with history. We'll find out what history has to say about is hope lost right now in this time that feels so bad. And then we're going to end with our ending sort of quickest segment we like to do here at the end of this show here in season 2. It's going to be a takeaway. What can we really take away, wrap this thing up with? And it's sort of like an action item. So the question we're going to ask ourselves is, what can we do about it? What should we do about it? Should we be fighting? How do we fight? Like, what is the battle? So if there's a battle, what can we do? What should we do? Is there anything we can do? Or do we just need to sit by and do nothing? And I think those are good questions to ask. So we're going to go on a commercial break, and we'll be right back to talk about the war. 1. Get out there. Chapter 2. Get organized. Chapter 3. Build your team. Chapter 4. Brand yourself. Chapter 5. Be a producer. Chapter 6. Run the business. Chapter 7. Be a great actor. let's dive right into auditioning, because I know that was the thumbnail specifically, and I'm fascinated to talk to you about this because we do casting.
Right.
I've been competing against you since I started acting, and then you know, I made some transitions and whatnot, and you're one of the best auditioners I've ever seen ever.
Wow, that means a lot. Thanks. That's
For real.
That's really nice to know, because you know how it is in auditioning. We get no feedback.
None.
No audition.
Yeah.
You just throw the ball out there and you hope that somebody will catch it. Is that a good metaphor? Yeah.
I feel like you know you're good when you have somebody come into the casting room, and then the casting director's like, hey, so if you could just do what the guy before you did. And that's happened like 4 times when you come in, where you'll do some creative move, and then the next person will go in and they'll be like, when they get to direction, they'll be like, yeah, what if you just did what he just did?
Yeah, well, you know, you do it enough, like you just yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
We have to have a solid memory in order to put up a play.
That was 100% the right choice.
The moment you realize you're stuck for a sec, stop and literally take a breath.
You have to react to that from his point of view as honestly as possible.
1, 2, 3.
I tried to explain. I don't want you to think about getting through the monologue. Yes.
Let's go!
Because my job isn't to work the monologue. My job is to work on you.
It's not about how many classes are on the resume. It's about your work ethic and persistence.
Who's further along than they were when they walked in the room?
We want the world to hear this. We want this to get out. This is why we do what we do.
That felt like the most honest thing I've ever done as an actress.
It was like entering like a new world. It was like draining and exhausting, but in a good way, you know?
It just feels so good to just feel the growth, the true growth all the way around.
We made a lot of discoveries, like lots of discoveries.
I feel like you give me permission as a coach to go all the way.
I just know what we do. It makes me so proud. And so like I want to make sure everything's perfect.
My hope is that this class opens everybody up as a person, and you become a better actor in the process.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about Ephesians. We're talking about war. And what are the signs of war? How do we know that we are in a war? Some people say that World War III is now upon us, World War III, but they also say World War III started a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at this, I agree. It's an informational warfare. It's this thing where this brand new, if you think about this, like what are wars fought over usually?
Land.
Land. That's exactly right. Land, like possessions, right?
Mhm, that's what I was gonna say, like control.
So here's what happened. A brand new land, undiscovered, was presented to the world, and different people, countries, whatever, went out and land grabbed. They said they put their flag in there, and they're like, "I own this part of the internet." Right? That's the new frontier. And so there's been this idea of, well, I own this and I own this, so then I can tell you how to think, or I can tell you how to think. And that's the idea. The war is, instead of letting people think, there are whoever, countries, people, parties that are trying to get you to think their way. That's a dangerous thing. It's dangerous to be in a place where people want you to think a certain way instead of trying to present to you facts in order to let you make an informed decision about how you feel, which I think is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Present the truth and have various opinions. I mean, it's very important to have differing opinions. You don't want everyone to think the same.
Yeah, you're super good at this. I mean, I've seen you continuously teach us that be curious mindset, you know?
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to, like, I've been the person definitely several times in life where I'm just totally one-sided on something and I just can't, like, see another way. And you've got to be able to, like, openly speak on something. And you're right, it's not something that's able to happen right now. So, it's like,
and then beyond that, right? So then what happens is when you're not heard, because that's what we're not listening to each other. That's the problem. And so then because you don't get heard and then I don't get heard, then we get our foot stuck in the mud, we become unbendable, and then we become bitter. And when you become bitter from not listening, you start to pull and go, well, you know what? If you're going to try to think that way, which I totally disagree with, and you're not bendable, then I'll just get greedy and pull you even further my way. Whether I think it's right or wrong, I'm just going to pull further.
yeah.
And this is what we call polarization. And this is what's happening right now is the world, society is becoming more polarized. We are actually dividing ourselves further and further apart. And we're looking at the negative things. We are paying attention to the ways that we're different and trying to highlight that and almost trying to win and trying to punish the other side if you have an edge or something like that. And again, it's very dangerous. Instead of trying to find where do we have common ground.
Yeah.
You know, this is like, you know, here's why it's so dangerous, okay? And we said we're going to talk about history here, so it's time to talk about history. And you can go, I mean, there's obviously so many examples, which should make us feel better, by the way.
Yeah.
That history repeats itself, and as it repeats itself, these great stories, there's going to be a turn. Okay, so we'll talk about that. But the idea here is, like, where have we seen this before? Okay, the two ideologies, and instead of focusing on the common ground, you focus on how much they're different. Let's go to like Catholics and Protestants. Okay, people died and killed each other and had wars and had, you know, even like neighborhood battles over, we all agree on the exact same, like most stuff, but like these couple things we disagree on.
Yeah.
And that disagreement was enough for us to kill each other instead of focusing on, we really agree with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And going like, okay, I can see your point of view. I don't agree with it, but I can see it. And you can see my point of view. You don't agree with it, you know, but you'll allow me to have it. But man, how many things are we in agreement on?
Yeah.
And living in that way and looking for common ground and looking to seek understanding of another culture, of another, you know, group of people, the way that they think or how they got to their way of thinking. That's power. That's something where you can bring peace and love and connectedness. But this idea of trying to push each other further away, that's where we are right now. And that's how we know that we're at war, because we keep going and everyone can feel it. And it's like, I mentioned this in the class that I said to everybody, if you're feeling the feels, you're not alone, right?
Yeah.
Because it's right now it's in the air. It's I don't know how to describe it. It's just like we all know something's not right. So maybe I could describe it like a rubber band. You know, and it's just pulling, and it's pulling, and it's pulling. We're getting more polarized, and we're pulling, right? And we all know if we keep doing that, it's gonna snap. And that's the feeling in the air right now. We're all worried, like, what's the breaking point of this?
Yeah. I want to touch on something you said, which is you were talking about, they agree on so much, right? And it goes back to this idea of we are all created the same, and yet each one of us as an individual, we're different. But I think what you said is so important to hear out, and it's okay for us all to have our own thoughts and beliefs, and we should be able to talk to each other. And I think most people have a great heart.
Yeah.
And you're being trained one way. And I saw this in the school system because I came up in a different generation, like where social media was a thing. And it teaches you these things in your brain where it's like, actually, I can't have those conversations. Actually, I don't want to have those conversations.
Right.
And that's the problem, because it's okay to think differently, and it's okay to have a conversation and maybe sway somebody one way or the other. This is what I think. But I think at the end of the day, most of us have a really great heart.
Totally. And
that's what gets forgot through all of the all the pain, through all of the rubber band, is we're all centered in the same heart. We all love each other. That's the center, And that's what's been lost a little bit, is people forget, like, love is the most important thing.
Well, and so like you said, we're not talking to each other. We're not listening to each other. And yes, that is the greatest enemy. But so why aren't we? Fear. And fear is the invisible enemy. Fear is the thing that is attacking everybody from every angle. And people feel like, well, right now I've got the stranglehold on fear, and I'm enjoying causing you fear, because if I can cause you fear and you don't speak your mind, then I don't have to be afraid. I think that's what's happening. I don't think, let's be honest, there is evil in the world. Not everybody is centered in love, but it's a very small group.
Yeah. Yeah.
The issue is when that group gets to power, obviously, and then they brainwash and all that. But for the most part, Joey's right. Everybody's centered in love. We just got to get back to that place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Another way we know that we are at war is the brainwashing. And this is a tactic that has been used over and over and over and over again. It's used in all the movies. It's used in different. It's been used in various warfare. Some of the worst things that humankind has done to each other started with brainwashing. Started with, let me get you to believe something because I just keep telling you it over and over and over and over again, and just hearing it on repeat just starts to make it true. And so that's what happens. And it feels like you just like people just sitting in a warm bath, and it just keeps getting a little hotter and a little hotter and a little hotter and a little hotter. And if it was already that hot in the beginning, you'd have jumped right out. But because it was just like a slow thing, you waited, and the worry is to wait too long before you speak up. And so there are certain things that are happening right now that I will talk about that shouldn't be political. And that is attacks. See, I again, I don't care different opinion. Opinions are great. Attacks are different. And if you're attacking the foundational principles of how a certain group of people feel, that's where it gets scary. Yeah. And so what we're seeing right now, here's why we know we're at war, is the core family values, like family in general, is being attacked. Freedoms are being attacked. Freedom of speech, specifically, is being attacked. Historical, memories are being attacked. And God is being attacked. And we just get right to the end here. That's the big one, and it's real dangerous.
Yeah.
If you talk about some of the most disruptive war is the domestic war that people have when two people get divorced. That's a war, and it's painful. You guys have been through it.
Absolutely.
I've been through it. Probably a lot of watchers have been through it. A lot of kids have been through divorce. It is painful. And what happens? It's a war between two people who just don't get along. And I was told this early on in my marriage was the three things that tend to cause a war in marriage are sex, religion, and money. So you should pre-talk about those things. Make sure that you understand each other, and make sure that you're not so polarized with these ideas that that the rubber band would break.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about what's going on right now, those are the issues that different people are so wound up about. You know, how do we handle the money? What are we doing with the money? It's so important. Always follow the money. You get to the answers.
Yeah.
Okay. Religion. What do you believe in? Are you allowed to believe in whatever? Are you allowed to talk about the belief? Right. And so just knowing that it's gonna be pervasive. This is something that if we go down this path, it leads to war. It leads to divorce.
Mm-hmm.
Of a sense, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it feels right now. It's like, you know, mom and dad are fighting.
Yeah.
It's like, stop it, you know,
Wait.
just be nice to each other. Can you please focus on what you have in common for once? The kids are still in the room.
We're trying to have breakfast.
You guys were so nice to each other at Thanksgiving, and it's Christmas, and now you're yelling at each other. So mad about that. All right. And the last thing I want to talk about, and this is something for any of our younger students or millennial students out there, I would like to be a part of the movement to just say out loud, I'd like to disavow the idea of cancel culture. I think it's very dangerous. This idea of I'm going to cancel you. I'm going to just like smear you. Like if you don't think the way I think, if you have a different opinion, and this comes back to listening, rather than listening to you, rather than acknowledging that you have a point of view, rather than trying to present my point of view and potentially maybe steer you, because let's say the person that's getting canceled is wrong, which often they are. You're wrong. You did something wrong. You are wrong. You got a wrong point of view. Okay, fine. I think people need to listen and need to approach it with love and prayer, and hopefully, if that person's wrong, they can be guided back to right.
Yeah.
But to actively say we're all gonna gang up on one person, and we're gonna just cancel you, right? Like it's this movement of hate is what it is. It's a hate movement, and I disavow it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, growing up in the generation of social media and just having that since I was a kid, that was one of the things, and we're seeing it now as things are heating up, right?
Yeah.
Is this idea
and it started by being trendy, right? It was like trendy and fun. Like, oh, we cancel you. Oh, you got canceled, right? But then think about it. No, you don't want to get canceled.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like what are you doing to other people? Goes back to like almost the bully mentality.
It's 100. It's not almost. That's exactly what it is. It is the weakest kid in the playground getting bullied, and then everyone dog teaming on instead of people standing up for that person, or instead of having a conversation, it's just we all attack and make you feel weak and small. And that's part of this whole idea of like what's led to depression and suicide among teenagers, is this idea of being canceled by each other, being hurt by each other, being attacked for sometimes no reason.
Totally. And it goes back to this thing of, you know, with things heating up, and I've seen it before, but now it's coming even more and more. People are posting these very polarizing, like you said, like, if you think this, unfollow me. Don't talk to me like you're a bad person, right? And I'm like, that's not the way we should be thinking. That's not loving each other.
Right.
You know, we shouldn't like if you're on my friends list for social media, that means at some point we were close.
Sure.
That's how I feel about it. Some people are different. Some people have a ton of followers that they know and don't know. For me, it's if I've run into you in my life and we had some sort of a personal relationship, you're probably on my followers list. So for you to say something like that, like it's hurtful to me, whether I think what you said or not, like I'm going to go home and pray for you.
And
because you're shutting out people that you used to love.
And you're willing to, without even knowing who you're talking to, like you're saying, whoever this person is that did that, and you go on their thing and you're going, oh, you didn't know it, but you just said we're no longer friends.
Yeah.
Without having a conversation, without even trying to like steer me in the right direction or try to have like an adult conversation to see, because if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'd like to know if I'm wrong. But you just said, if you've ever thought this or felt this way, you're just don't.
Well, and that's
be a part
the
of
thing.
my life.
I very well could be wrong if I'm on the other side of whatever they're saying that about, right? But if they do that, then I'm going to think even more so that I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like that person. So instead of having this conversation with somebody you know and we're friends with, like you said, an adult conversation, it's this yes or no mentality. And then if you are wrong, it makes you stand even closer to what you felt before, because you're like, well, I got treated really terribly for this, and I don't want to be in that group that treats people terribly.
Right. And then on the worst side of that is then I seek revenge. And that's where it becomes this back and forth. So rather than saying like, oh, like now I want to cancel because you canceled, I'm going to cancel. And then it just becomes, right. Here's what I think we should start doing. Let's start hashtag cancel culture.
I like it. You know what? There's a great acting exercise, I think, on the side.
Oh, heck yeah.
That you've done for debating for yourself, I think, that is really good.
Yeah.
And so fun, honestly. And challenging. Like whatever your side is, you have to defend the opposite side of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fun. You'll have even your kids do it with with food, and like down to the smallest little details of something that like maybe you hate, all the way up to the biggest things. And you have to then try and see things from the other person's point of view. And it's hard, man.
I just realized how hard it would be. And you're right, because it's so powerful, this exercise. The exercise is this. You want to get yourself behind the eyes of your enemy, or behind the eyes of the person who you think is so bad, or behind the eyes of someone who you think is so wrong. And so, I've got some silly things that I know are silly, just cute, funny, that I'm passionately against, like tomatoes.
Right. Yeah. Matt cannot have tomatoes.
So and I'm not going to do it right now because I'm not in a headspace to do it. If I had to defend tomatoes, it would be very difficult.
Yeah. I did a meme of you in masterclass where you had like this mad face and you were like, and I was like, I put a caption above it and just sent it to like the people who know you because it's an inside joke, but it just said, "Did you just put tomatoes on my sandwich?"
I do get really mad about that.
So
All right.
funny.
Cool. So we're going to go to another commercial break here. But so this was really good. This is like, how do we know we're at war? And we know we're at war because it's like, you don't have to see it. You can feel it. And no matter what they say on the news, whether they say there's troops moving, or there's armed protests, or there is a war, and there's a bomb that goes off, the war was already going on. Mm-hmm. And some of that stuff can be real. Some of it won't necessarily be real. But there's a war. Understand that. There's a war. And it starts from within. So that's interesting. But the war is upon us. Okay? And we know we're in a war, and we just pointed out why and how we know that war exists. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to talk about hope. Is hope lost? Not sure about that. Find out what history has to say about it.
12 minutes of your time, I got a few things I'd like to talk to you about.
It was a way for us to get more comfortable listening to each other.
We're gonna go back and be more confident than ever.
We teach self-development, and we use acting to do that.
Did you always have a performer inside you?
It was something that I knew I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I knew this was my thing.
You stress that in that book, that you have to have a plan every day and follow that plan. It's strikingly similar to the same things we talked about in business.
We had a really good time. The staff is amazing. We had some great group activities, learned a lot about ourselves individually, so highly recommend coming here.
Nothing I'm going to tell you is going to be revolutionary because it's just the truth. Anybody who speaks the truth, period. Because the plane's taking off every day. That's what I've decided. The plane of success is taking off, and I don't want to miss my flight.
I was going to talk about how I have used improv in engineering and in my work. What I learned from you is get out of your head. This class and the studio has made such a huge positive impact on my life, and I cannot thank you enough.
We're trying to help you work on you.
So today at Deering Studios, you're gonna learn how to be confident, how to have a voice, and use your voice.
What I love most about Jada coming to this place and being able to be a part of this family is that it just makes her more comfortable in her skin.
We are back here on the Mornings with Matt show. We've been talking about war. We are at war. We discussed all the signs that we're at war. And now I want to talk about hope. Is all hope lost?
No.
We're going to find out.
Is there any reason to be hopeful?
Yes. I'm just, you're asking all these open-faced questions, and Brian's like sitting there like, I don't know if I should answer. And I'm like, yes, yes, guys.
This is the time that they've been waiting for.
This is the time where you answer the question. Like, it's a very obvious question. Yes, there's hope.
There is hope. You're right, Joey.
There will always be.
But it feels like there's no hope.
Yes.
It feels like it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can, if we allow the enemy to win, we get into this internal battle of giving in to the helplessness, feeling like you're helpless.
Mm-hmm.
Or not.
Yeah.
There's always hope. You're right.
Yep.
So let's look at history, and we talked a little bit about different wars, and war is over power, right? It's a fight over power, and a war starts with people, and people are gonna fail.
Yep.
Because people suck.
Yeah, we suck. It's in our nature.
It says it right in the Bible.
Yeah,
100%.
The Lord said, people suck.
People will fail you.
People suck.
No, people will fail you. You have to put your trust in God.
That's right. That's right.
People will fail you every time.
That's right. And so we're in a time right now when, I'm just going to say it, people are failing. They're failing so hard that everyone's, this is a good thing. I think everyone's going, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with the people on that side, and I'm also done with the people on that side.
Yeah.
I'm just done with the people. So they're turning to God, and that's good. That's a good thing. And, going back to that rubber band idea, something my dad said to me, because I went to this conference of his, and I just, like, I kind of hated what I saw going on. And I'm not going to get into the details of it, but I was just like, what a waste of time. And I was like, ugh. It felt like tomatoes to me. Ugh. And he was like, the pendulum swings, he told me. The pendulum swings. And so for those of you who don't know what a pendulum is, that's that thing that kind of goes back and forth like this, right? The pendulum. And so if it's correctly, measured and weighted properly, it'll just keep going. It just goes and goes and goes and goes. And this much energy takes it back fast enough to go that much energy back, and it just keeps going, right? So what happens is the pendulum swings up. It eventually has to swing back down. It eventually does. So when we feel at peace, and our buddy Paul talks about this, when we feel at peace, all it means is it's calm before the storm. It just means the pendulum's on its way down, but some person's gonna grab a hold of the power and go, my way, my way, my way, my way, until everyone gets uncomfortable again. Okay? So right now, the pendulum is swinging really far to one side, it feels like. And it's like, you keep pushing, it's gonna swing back down, so that's okay. Like, that's okay, and that's part of life. And that's why these wars repeat themselves. That's why there's a different turnover of ideas. And you kind of, like, you need to go through the mess to come out and figure out, here's where we were trying to get to this whole time.
Absolutely. And it continues throughout, like, history, like you said, one onto the other, all the way back. Like, if you think about it, like, wars have been always a part of life. Like, it's always been, like, over different things, and the human part of us is what is being attributed in that.
We'll go back to the book. The very first kids on Earth, Cain and Abel.
Yeah. Right away.
Power, death, murder.
Yep.
Pendulum swung.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just going to have to do it. It is what it is. You talked about a book, not this book.
It's time now for Brian Sweeney's Shameless Plugs.
Shameless plug. Wow, can you believe that used to be there? I mean, that's crazy.
You're looking prime time, fresh, by the way.
This feels fresh to put next to my face.
That was in the comments, actually. Somebody said, Brian looking fresh without the beard.
Totally, and the book looks better. Like, you look like one of those hot models standing next to a car.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually was practicing the other night.
I think you can be a hand model.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
And a book model. You're definitely a book.
Long lost dream I've had for a while.
Let's just talk about model citizen.
There's a lot of
Brian's
book models
model
out there.
citizen. Book model, acting model.
Are you going to promote this book or what?
Oh, yeah. Acting is my day job. 7 strategies to market and make money as an actor. You can get it online on Amazon. But it's also, again, going to give you, especially coming into this new year, the exercises that Matt has created here got right there. Be inspired. Just some great exercises to put you in the right mindset and get you focused on the right things as we're just coming through all these battles right now.
Yeah.
Now, that was impressive because, usually I'll check and make sure, like, Brian has the book on him, and I just hit the button because I heard book, and I was like, I need to hit the button.
That was
like,
awesome.
It's part of the show.
That was awesome.
He's got a book, like, right next to him, like, in his back pocket.
And he shouldn't take credit for that.
Yeah, I wasn't going to. It's just sitting there when I got here.
Got you. I see.
I might have made sure it was there.
I see. Oh, so Matt's a mastermind.
But here's the deal, right?
Here's the deal.
It's okay. We lift each other up. That's what we do.
Yo, facts.
That's what we do. But yo, facts. That's what those are
we
facts.
we hit the record button when people forget. Like, that's what we do.
2 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
we light Brian's background so that we can make him not so white. That's what we do.
We don't want to have another podcast with Ford Robert Black and have it not hit the record button.
Oh.
All right, so Joey, I got to pass the focus on to you here for a second, because when we were talking about our topic this morning, having our nice biblical breakfast that we had, biblical breakfast.
Ooh, I like that.
Dude, that's like another show.
Yeah.
Biblical breakfast, brought to you by Daring Acting Studio.
Please strike this from the record because we would like to use that name.
Yeah, that's right. Copywritten. So we're having our biblical breakfast, Joey, and you came up with, when we were talking about all this stuff, you mentioned Star Wars, and it was such a cool analogy. Now, of course, like, almost every movie applies, but Star Wars is like really cool connection. So why don't you sort of launch us onto this, and then Brian and I will just kind of tag team.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. So, the reason I drew this comparison is because there's this whole idea of the Jedi and the Sith.
Right.
And the First Order and the Republic, right? And so it's the two sides, and it gets meshed. And there's people, just normal people on both sides
being affected.
They're
not knowing the truth, right?
Yeah, they're the sheep.
Yeah.
They're being told these things like the people who follow, because I always wonder, why would you follow the Sith? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Well, they're the big corporation. They're the new, we're going to build your planets.
And you only see, so if you look at all the senators that are like around that, that big, like that cool shot. And those are all senators. Those are all the most important people of their planets, right? And there's tons of them, right?
Yeah.
Well, those senators, they only see what they're shown. They don't see the spiritual side of it.
Yeah.
So they vote for something that on the surface looks right because it's through the lens of what they've been presented, and they're not asking the right questions, and they're not really listening to spirit, because it's a spiritual battle. This is not a right and a left. In our case, it's not a Democrat Republican. It's not. It's not what it is right now. There is an underneath battle, a spiritual battle, a Sith battle. That's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
And you've got like the one of the strongest Jedis ever being manipulated and trained by that person, and having no idea that that's being the case, going to them for advice. You know?
And the Jedi of all time, Yoda. Joey was just saying this. How do you always ask yourself? Would you not know? You're sitting You're sitting right in front of this. I got mad. I watched this last night. You're sitting right there. You can feel negative energy. Like that's what you do. Like I sense the dark. Yeah, and they just like know it. Like a roach. Like
yeah.
Right. And he's but here's what he says, and this is what I think is so important. He's sitting right in front of him, and he has no idea who it is, because he says we're clouded by the dark side. I can feel that we're clouded, which means there's so much dark that I can't pinpoint where it's coming from. It's just sort of spreading out like a cloud. And what's a cloud, right? You just you swing right through it. Like, we're clouded by it.
Yeah.
And if it was, like one thing, one person, it would be easier to snuff out. But it's like there's this cloud, and I got to figure out what's real, what's not real.
Well, and that's what's interesting. I got 2 points here. Number one is he says he's clouded by the dark side. He can't figure it out, right?
Right.
He doesn't know where it's coming from. It's two people.
And it's not,
out of
and it's
everybody on the council. It's two people. It's the senator, the chancellor, and then he has been counseling Anakin
right
in the dark side without Anakin knowing. He's a young, child, easily influenced,
right?
Who's in over his head, right? So Obi-Wan is teaching him certain things, and what he's doing with his power is he's saying, no, Obi-Wan is teaching you the wrong things. This is how you should think.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And it's one person.
Dang.
They're outnumbered. It's one person.
Here's how you should think.
It's powerful.
Here's how he's forcing him to think in a way that causes him to go into feelings. And we're going to be talking about feelings in our next segment here after the commercial break. We're going to be talking about feelings. But there's this idea of he's causing him to think a certain way, causing him to change everything he grew up with.
Dude, going all the way back to the Bible verse, he's manipulating specifically, strategically, like through the smallest points of his life. He's asking him questions he knows is going to get his mind going the wrong way.
Well, and he looks for all his weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, we talked about the three. Padme.
Yep.
That's one of the temptations, right?
But who put him close to Padme? The Chancellor.
That's what I'm saying.
He allowed it to happen.
That's what I'm saying.
He put it together.
But he knew
for
his
him.
weaknesses.
Yeah.
And when that opportunity came up, he goes, "Here's a strategy." If it didn't work, he would have done something else.
Right.
But that was just a strategy, and it worked.
Yeah.
But that was a strategy, right?
And it goes back to this thing. So my second point was about Yoda. And I think I drew this comparison, but I might have got it from Brian or somebody else. But it is, Yoda is known to, like you said, sniff out anything. He's so in touch,
Mm-hmm.
he can see things. But Yoda in the movie is a representation of God, of Jesus, right? And so what he sees, you know, they say God knows everything. He knows the plan, he knows the future, right?
Right.
But he doesn't know exactly how things are going because we have choices that we get to make.
That alter
we have
it.
free will.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they see two paths.
Well,
So Yoda sees this path where Anakin is influenced by Obi-Wan, and he sees this path where Anakin goes to the dark side. But he doesn't know which one is going to happen. He just knows one of two things is going to happen. This is what happens on both sides.
But either way, it ends up at the same place.
Yeah.
Either no matter what the choices are, it's he already knows the outcome. Okay, because literally we stopped watching last night right at this scene where Obi-Wan says he tries to stop Anakin from going and hanging out with Padme by himself.
Yeah.
He's like, by the way, bad idea.
This is not smart.
Kid's not ready for this assignment by himself. And they go, we feel like it's fine. We've talked about it. We feel like it's fine. He's like, I'm telling you, he's too erratic right now. It's not a good idea. And they said, well, we don't really have much of a choice. We're in this place, and if the prophet is what Samuel L. says, Mace Windu. He says, if the prophecy's correct, your what do you call anyway, Anakin is the chosen one. He's the one that's going to restore order, and he does through his line, through his eventually him overcoming the first one to overcome the dark side, right? When he throws the Chancellor down the tubes.
Yeah.
Sorry if you haven't seen Star Wars.
Sorry. Yeah.
So Joey's so right about that, but there was that moment where Obi-Wan knows, and he tries to speak up, but guess what? He gets silenced by his own people.
Yep. And then
because they're clouded.
Here's what's crazy.
War, people. We are at war.
Like you said, like it ends the same way, right? It does. What happens at the end of Anakin's life? He turns back to the good side.
Right.
He helps his son.
Right.
Against
that's what I'm saying.
the emperor.
Yeah,
like he turns back to God.
Right.
Like he realizes
correct.
He's been brainwashed.
Of course.
And he does the right thing.
And he takes off he takes off the helmet.
Oh man.
I want you to see me for the very first time.
We just got censored for sure. I just ruined our show. All right, so we're going to come back. A final segment here, a little takeaway. We're at war. We talked about that. We talked about the armor, and we talked about how we know we're at war, and we talked about history, and should we have hope? And of course we should have hope. All right, but what can we do right now? What can we do? What's our action plan? Okay, we talked about Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? And speaking up, and he gets silenced. Okay, so what do we do? What is the move that we make? We're going to talk about that when we come back.
1. Get out there. Chapter 2. Get organized. Chapter 3. Build your team. Chapter 4. Brand yourself. Chapter 5. Be a producer. Chapter 6. Run the business. Chapter 7. Be a great actor.
Let's dive right into auditioning, because I know that was the thumbnail specifically, and I'm fascinated to talk to you about this because we do casting. Right. I've been competing against you since I started acting, and then I made some transitions and whatnot, and you're one of the best auditioners I've ever seen ever.
Wow, that means a lot. Thanks. That's really nice to know, because you know how it is in auditioning. We get no feedback.
None.
No audition.
Yeah.
You just throw the ball out there and you hope that somebody will catch it. Is that a good metaphor? Yeah.
I feel like you're good when you have somebody come into the casting room, and then the casting director's like, hey, so if you could just do what the guy before you did. And that's happened like 4 times when you come in, where you'll do some creative move and then the next person will go in and they'll be like, when they get to direction, they'll be like, yeah, what if you just did what he just did?
Yeah, well, you know, you do it enough, like you just yeah, there's yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
We have to have a solid memory in order to put up a play. That was 100% the right choice. The moment you realize you're stuck for a sec, stop and literally take a breath.
You have to react to that from his point of view as honestly as possible.
I tried to explain.
I don't want you to think about getting through the monologue. Yes.
Let's go!
Because my job isn't to work the monologue. My job is to work on you.
It's not about how many classes are on the resume. It's about your work ethic and persistence.
Who's further along than they were when they walked in the room?
We want the world to hear this. We want this to get out. This is why we do what we do.
That felt like the most honest thing I've ever done as an actress.
It was like entering like a new world.
It was like draining and exhausting, but in a good way, you know?
It just feels so good to just feel the growth, the true growth all the way around.
We made a lot of discoveries. Like lots of discoveries.
I feel like you give me permission as a coach to go all the way.
I just know what we do. It makes me so proud. And so like I want to make sure everything's perfect.
My hope is that this class opens everybody up as a person, and you become a better actor in the process.
I'm like, it's like a cheat sheet.
Boom! Yo, we are back. My bad.
I was just talking about the Bible being a cheat sheet.
Oh yeah, totally.
Because it totally is for giving great speeches, or like, you know, I'm like, this is a really good format we got here.
Yeah.
Starting off with the Bible.
Sort of like starting your day off with the Bible too.
It's like,
well, and that's the thing. You guys have been doing that for a while,
Talking
but
about
it's easy to
plagiarism.
miss a day and like all that good stuff. It happens, right? But now that you're doing this on the show every morning, it forces you to continue that habit.
Well, no, now it's well, yes, you're right. So at minimum, we do that.
Yeah.
Because at maximum, it's going to be double, triple down on this stuff.
Well, and I guess
this is food for the soul, baby.
Yeah, yeah, and like going all the way back to the armor. That's the word of God is the strength of, and the armor of God is the word. So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
boom.
So we get to put on the armor every morning, and we want you guys to put on the armor. It's great. All right, so this last segment is always the quickest here, so we're going to blast through this. But the idea is now, what's the takeaway? Okay, we are at war. We've established we are at war. We know why and how we're at war. We talked about the fact that we should have hope, but that some of us feel like we know. Some of us, we feel like we're like, hey, guys, like, hey, like bad stuff. Come on. And you're being silenced. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi being silenced.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do you fight back if you're Obi-Wan? Because they say, quiet. And he walks away. And it's okay. Honestly, I don't think it helps for him to get into a fight with Yoda.
No.
Right. Yeah.
He can't.
Because
Okay.
then guess what? There's a suspicion that he's the Dark Cloud.
That's right. And then it becomes like now, or there's more turmoil.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
More fighting.
And now it's
More
like we're fighting here, right? And his job is to obey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So how then do you fight back? And the answer is love.
Yes, sir.
So it's like, you hate me, I say a prayer for you. It's like
Yeah.
Boom.
you know, and but sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sincere love. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, and we've talked about this on other shows, but like when there's a storm, the captain of the ship's got to be the most calm, right? Well, you are the captain of your own ship. Your body, your vessel here is gonna feel uncomfortable in the next 10 days. I promise you. I'm just gonna tell you, it's gonna happen. You're gonna feel uncomfortable until we get to some kind of an idea of where we're going. And just if you haven't admitted this to yourself yet, we don't really know answers yet. And it's gonna surprise people. Whichever way it goes, it's gonna surprise people. Okay? And so there's gonna be unrest, and your vessel is gonna feel out of order. So you, as the captain of that ship, need to be very calm. You have to be the most calm you've been in your whole life. And this is demonstrated in Star Wars by Yoda.
Yeah.
He's a master meditator.
Yeah.
When things are the worst and he's really got to figure things out and he's really got to fight, what does he do? He goes in. He goes in. It's not a demonstration of strength, like outward, like pushing, being loud. It is an in movement, and he uses God through him. That's his strength. That is why Yoda is the strongest Jedi. Because look at his stature.
Yeah, he
reminds me of Brian right now. Because you know, you just got weak from the hospital. And we were talking about this last night. Physically, you're now the smallest among us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But you got so close to God through that experience that if you choose to tap in, that's why I'm like, dude, visualize, because I want to hear what God's telling you.
Yeah, yeah.
God's talking to me, but I kind of want to know what he's talking to you about, because I feel like you're tapped in if you can tap in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to be the strongest physically to win this battle. You got to go in. You got to be still.
Yeah.
You got to be relaxed. You got to be calm. You got to be neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. So when this is happening, and here's how you win the battle within. And I don't even want to say win or lose, because there is no winner. When things are bad and there's a war, there's no winner. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Nobody gets to win.
Yeah.
We just hopefully are going to find as much truth as we can, follow the truth, and find some sort of peace and resolution and growth, knowing that the dark side never actually goes away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, but it never gets defeated completely. It's a part of life.
Yep.
And it will rise up again in a new way, in a different way, in a surprising way. And we're like, how do we not see it coming? It'll happen again. But in this moment, when we are approaching a climax to this event, and you're hearing all the craziness, it's like, go within, pray, stay calm, and don't let your feelings, Anakin, take over. Because your feelings will betray you.
Yeah.
I want to touch on the prayer really quick from the first note right there.
Sure.
When you're praying for these people, what do you recommend that people pray for those people? Because for me, the first thing I think of is not pray to think the way that I think. Pray that they have their eyes open. For me, it's like, I want to pray for them to find truth, like you said, and to find this center place where,
and peace.
Honestly, I respect your beliefs. You know, you feel a certain way, probably from some experiences you've had in life. That's how a lot of us form our opinions is, well, this happened to me when I was a kid, or one of my best friends, like I saw this happen in their family. I don't want to see that happen in families, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I have this opinion. So peace, like what do you pray for?
Peace.
For those people. Okay.
Peace. You pray that they find what it is for them that's missing, that's lacking, that's causing them to lash out. If we have a student here in our classes who's the worst student, what do I always say? They're the ones that need us the most. They need more love.
Since day one, you've said that, yeah.
and it means that we have a deeper responsibility to love harder and better and stronger for that person, because if they're acting out, it just means something's not right on the inside and they're begging for help and they just don't know how.
And you know what's interesting is those students are the ones that become leaders in our program.
100%.
6 months, a year, 2 years down the line.
So you pray for them, and you don't take what they say or do personally. You don't allow it to be something that weighs you down. But instead, you realize that if you make the choice, you've already got God's armor on. So whatever they throw at you, it's like bing, it just gets deflected. And so I can keep walking in love. I don't have to be weighed down by your negativity. I don't have to focus on it. And I don't have to take it personally. And I don't even have to think that it's me you're mad at.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so instead, I'll just, turn and go inward and secretly, not out loud, not to get any kind of credit, secretly pray for you that you find love, that you find peace, that you find it inside of you to not have to experience what right now you're putting on other people.
Yeah. And I want to touch on this really quick on that with the armor. We've talked about the God's armor and we talked about the Mandalorian, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in an episode this season, he had to take off his armor and wear a stormtrooper's armor.
Yeah.
Right? And you saw him get beat. Like hardcore, like
Right.
pieces of an armor flying off, like he's getting hurt. And you'd never seen it.
Right.
Until then, because that's the difference between worldly armor and godly armor.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
You can either pierce through it or you're protected. You can fight for good and you'll be protected even if it's you against hundreds, thousands.
Star Wars is like a pretty good story.
Yeah. Thank
You guys
you.
gotta watch it.
Thank you, George Lucas.
I think good old George read the Bible. I think
so.
I think he got some ideas. All right, so everybody, there is hope. There is hope, and there is something you can do, and it's going to be to find peace, to seek peace inside you first. Get yourself to that neutral place. Breathe. Send love. Avoid the noise as much as possible. Avoid the news as much as possible, because a lot of it is going to be fluff, going to be repeat, going to be not true. They're going to be all kinds of different things, and so you want to avoid that. And you want to send as much love right now out as you can, because there's a lot of things where they're trying to make you fearful and trying to make you feel a certain way and like buzzing all this like negative energy. And so you got to fight back with love, with peace, with relaxation. And the more of us that can get peaceful and go inward and get to that yoga place, yoga Yoda, the world will feel it.
And that's what our common ground is. Every single one of us loves somebody.
Love. You're right.
Family, relationship, whatever.
Facts, yo. Facts.
Boom.
All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We are at war, but don't be scared, because we know what to do, and we will get to the other side of it. The pendulum will swing back. We'll find peace and love. God bless you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Mornings with Matt. Please like, subscribe, and follow us at Deering Acting Studio to keep up with the latest content. For more information on classes, private lessons, or professional development coaching, visit www.deeringstudio.com. Have a Deering day, everyone.
Have a chippy day, everyone. Rough.